Hey, I'm Justin. This is Josh.
I'm Josh.
And this is the Maximize podcast.
It is, from what I've heard.
It is from what I've heard as well.
This is episode Trace
Yes.
or Quattro.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
That's a problem.
We are definitely in the infancy stage of the podcast. And obviously what we're trying to do here is we're trying to bring value to you in all areas of real estate, really, right?
Or life.
Or life in general.
Life. So we're hoping that as we give you the insight into our candid lives and our profession, that we can help you maximize your success.
Yeah.
Play on the name.
Maximize.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about a question that is probably hitting the minds of a lot of people. Are we operating in a bubble?
What do you mean? What is a bubble, Justin?
A bubble is something that when you take a wand and you put it in soap and you go, it expands and it creates a bubble.
Justin has a 2-year-old, so he
loves bubbles.
He loves bubbles.
Yeah, he'll point outside and go, bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do that a lot.
My 3-year-old loves bubbles too. Of course, my 7 and my 9-year-old love bubbles too. I mean, who doesn't love bubbles? But we're talking about real estate, and we're talking about housing bubbles and the potential of what there is on the forefront of the coming market, right?
Right. So we're talking about, for instance, in a housing bubble, is there something shielding the growth that could pop and have that market collapse? Have the values collapse, have the economies collapse? And what does that look like?
So there are multi-layers to a bubble. So we're going to kind of we're really going to try to focus on the real estate, but it's very multifaceted, right?
Right.
So inside even the real estate bubble per se, there are, you're talking rentals, you're talking investments, you're talking primary mortgages. So there's different things that we can kind of talk about there. But overall, in general, if you talk to and you listen to a lot of the leading researchers from what we see from NAR, which is a National Association of Realtors, all the chief economists from, like KCM, like all these big people, they are forecasting that we're not in a bubble, but they're projecting that we're going to have another 2 to possibly 3 years of a good market. Okay. Now, when I say a good market, right? Now, they're not forecasting that it's going to be as lucrative for sellers. As it has been, price appreciation over 10%. That's not going to happen, but still, houses are still going to appreciate. They're kind of estimating it's going to be somewhere around the 5% range.
Okay.
And not 10+%.
So I think something that had started this, at least when I started hearing it more, is when the articles came out about mortgage applications decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing with that, and does it really matter, is one, I'm still working with people from June of last year looking for a house. So the active listings are still low enough that, you're still trying to find homes. So when will that downturn affect markets? And then from there, they always push into what about price? And so the one thing that I want to jump into, especially if we're talking about price and how it affects this market, is appraisal value versus sold price. And I think that's a huge consideration for how you could view it bubble or not, right? So obviously what I'm talking about is I'm going to list my house as a good agent at what I believe a market value to be.
Mm-hmm.
So easy math. Let's use easy math.
Okay.
So this is probably not going to happen, but I guess it could. We list the house for $100,000 because we think it's worth $100,000. Someone offers $200,000. If you're the agent, if you're the listing agent and I sent you an offer for $200,000, what is the first thing that you're looking for? And why is it important?
Or you're looking for comparables. You're looking for comps to see if that's going to be supported from a bank.
Right, that's the bank.
Yes, correct. So, for instance, I bring a buyer to your house. We offer you $200,000 on a $100,000 house. That does not mean that a lender is going to loan my client $200,000 to buy a $100,000 house.
Right.
Right. So we have to, the professionals have to talk about and we have to figure out what the comparable values are. So we have to look in kind of like houses in similar, in the relative close neighborhood to kind of find a value that we think it would appraise for.
Okay, and let's say, again, in this case, you find comparable homes to be around 120. What's the next thing you're looking for in the offer?
In the offer?
In the offer. If I wrote it at 200, what else are you looking to read in that offer if you know comps are at 120?
You would look for appraisal gaps.
That's the biggest thing I think that makes this different from the bubble you saw in 2008. You saw offers being written and bad loans being written, because if the appraisal gap is there, it's not the bank saying that house is worth $200,000. It's the buyer being willing to pay the cash to purchase that home.
Yep.
Which does not then create a $200,000 piece of debt.
Yep.
And that's the biggest difference, I think. The debt level and how bad or good that debt is.
Yeah. So there is a statistic out there, and I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but of the people who own houses, of the people who actually own a house and have a mortgage on it, just own a house, 60, I think it's roughly 60% of those homeowners have more than 50% equity in the house.
That's a big number.
So what that means for you, all right? So that means roughly 60% of the people who have a house, and let's say their house is worth $100,000, their balance on their mortgage is roughly $50,000. Roughly, just to make it nice and easy. So there's a whole bunch of people out there that have a lot of equity in their house that they can, equity, like we talked about in one of the last podcasts, right? So that equity, because what was happening back in 08, 09, 10, you had these bad loans that were written that, there was no credit verification.
Right.
I mean, if you barely had to have a pulse to get a loan. And then
I qualify.
Yes, but they were doing no money down. So there's a lot of people coming in here buying a house. So actually in the Central Ohio, the Columbus market, fun fact for you, in the last 2 years, 1 out of 4 homes that have sold in the Columbus market have been all cash.
All cash.
1 out of 4 homes.
That's flush with cash.
Yes.
So there's the, I think, big picture difference, bubble, not bubble. And then you have 2008, where we talk about bubble and the economy collapsing. Well, part of the economy, like you said, we were selling debt on the secondary market. And so that makes a big difference. Typically,
everyone is very leveraged back
right,
then.
Yeah, and typically real estate is a lagging indicator.
Yeah.
Like you're going to see the economy start going down. And then because the economy went down, then the real estate will follow in line. Because if everything else goes down, then obviously something is going to have to follow.
Yeah.
When you're bringing an extra, we'll go back to the $120,000. If you're going to buy it at 200 and you're willing to put the extra 80 down, that's not the same as an indicator that we're leveraged to the hilt.
Yeah. And obviously that presents a whole lot of different problems for buyers that don't have that cash to put down and kind of back it up, because you have buyers that are coming in right now that, let's say it's all financed offers, but you have someone offering, let's say on that same house they're offering $120,000. You have someone that's offering $120,000, but they're willing to make up a $20,000 appraisal gap difference. It's a no-brainer. The seller has to go with the person with the appraisal gap.
Right. So if I offer 120 with a $20,000 appraisal gap, and you come with your buyer and you offer them 160 but no appraisal gap, I at least guarantee them a minimum of 140.
Yeah.
You've guaranteed them a minimum of 120 to whatever the comps could be.
Correct. And that's really important. And that's why you need to have a trusted real estate professional that can run those comps and be like, hey, Josh, hey, Justin, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I want to offer. What do you think the appraisal is going to be? We're pretty good at our jobs.
I'd say so.
But it's never extremely cut and dry. No. There's always a little bit of variability in there. And, we have to try to figure that out, and we have to balance that and educate our clients, with that information.
Sure. I mean, in this market, not to sound too rude, but I guess a monkey could sell houses as an agent. So you don't need a sign. You need a negotiator and a powerful strategic placement in the market. Not just hey, my house is for sale. But
yes.
Off topic. way off topic, and he's taking off his glasses, which means it's getting serious. Yeah. So back to I might have done something wrong.
No.
He's getting way too serious looking here.
That's just a little soapbox for me. It's just, yes, anyone can sell a house. Absolutely. But there is no doubt in my mind, I will take it to the grave. Because real estate professionals are not cheap. It is not cheap for you to sell your house. But the benefit of using someone who's good at their job, a good listing agent, they're going to get you much more for your house than you could on the
Let me clarify. Selling a house and selling it the right way for the most efficient amount of money is totally different.
Yeah.
What's the difference between taking $70,000 on a house that's valuation as $120 versus being able to negotiate up to $160? Absolutely. And I think that's the difference. So I guess let me pull that back in.
You just hurt my soul.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to say anybody, but the house is moving. So if you list it wrong, somebody's going to come buy it unless you're way out of your mind. But if you don't negotiate properly, if your agent is not negotiating an offer properly, you're going to leave money on the table because you think you're going to get 165, but it's going to appraise for 120.
Yeah. So getting back to the housing bubble.
Yeah.
Sorry. Side note there.
Bubble.
So getting back to the housing bubble, what do you see? So mortgage applications are down. Mm-hmm. There are still, we look at the stats all the time. There are still a consistent number of listings on the market year over year, from now to from last year in 2021. So it's fairly consistent on the number of listings. Mm-hmm. So why are they going for so much more in so little time on the market?
You still have that backup, almost like a drain that's being bottlenecked of buyers waiting to get into something. And I think this overall picture will look like what we've seen in some smaller markets, right? So when it was really, really crazy and you were getting 15, 20, 30 offers, then the competitiveness was there. But now we're still competitive and we're getting 5. And I think in some markets, you're still getting probably 10, 15, 20 plus offers. I think the slowdown of the mortgage applications will make every market look more like the 3 to 5 offer competition instead of the 15. But I don't foresee it changing the overall competitiveness in price.
Funny. I literally just got a text message on an offer I thought we were going to get, and we lost. So it was an FHA loan. It was $15,000 over. We had a $10,000 appraisal gap and lost.
That was a well-written offer. Must have been by a good agent.
On an 1,100 square foot ranch house.
No kidding.
Yep. But goes to show you.
And all they needed were 2 offers.
Yeah.
To make that happen. Yep. So that's part of it, is we still have people who need to find homes.
Goes on text and see if the other was a conventional loan.
Ooh. Figure out that bubble. Maybe it's cash. So all that to say, to wrap that up a bit, is probably it's not a bubble. Will things slow a little bit? Will we go from offering 30 over to 15 over to now the houses, we've gotten to the point where the market value of them is at a place where we kind of plateau and the offers aren't as much over. They're 1 or 2 or 5. I think that is more realistic over the next 2 years, where the appreciation of the value comes in the list price and maybe coming slightly over.
I would agree.
But I do not foresee a bubble being popped and things slowing down.
Yeah. I would agree with you. You're right there.
I think it's all have to do is looking at the cash. I think the new normal is if you want a house, you're going to have to bring money to the table.
Yeah, I was absolutely blown away knowing that statistic. It was, to me, that was just mind-blowing. 1 out of 4.
That's a huge, maybe you don't think so, but being in this, that's a huge number.
Yeah. So, all right, that's all we got for today. I'm Josh, this is Justin, and this is the Maximize Podcast. See you.